In the town where I was born lived a man who sailed the sea, and he told us all his life in the land of submarines. So we sailed to the sun till we found the sea of green, and we lived above the waves in a yellow submarine. Sing it with me, Kyril. We all live in a yellow submarine. You're not singing with me. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. What the fuck?
Do I look like somebody who knows Beatles lyrics to you?
This is like the easiest song in the world to know.
I could not tell you the lyrics of a single Beatles song.
You do you even listen to the Beatles?
No.
Wow. Okay, listen to me, okay? Anything after Rubber Soul is golden. Don't go to the Pretty Boy shit. There's like one or two good songs there. Okay,
Whatever
everybody,
you
all
say.
together. We all live in a yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. We all live in... Come on, Carl. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. I'm getting the feeling you're not too interested in submarines today, Mr. Carroll.
I am not in a submersible mood, no.
And our friends are all aboard. Many more of them live next door. And the band begins to play. We all live in yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. Yellow submarine. Cairo won't sing to Yellow Submarine, Yellow Submarine, Yellow Submarine. Come on, you know this one.
Genuinely don't.
Fuck. As we live a life of ease, every one of us has all we need. A sky of blue, a sea of green, in a yellow submarine. Okay, this is your redemption arc, right, Kyril?
I'll say, I can appreciate why the Beatles are as popular as they are, but there is an aspect to all of their music that just makes me want to, like, go to sleep when I hear it.
Wow, that was not the lyrics at all. You were not kidding. Yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. Okay, I'm Miss Orion, and I live in a yellow submarine.
And I'm Kyril, and I'm living in Pravda on... Oh, shit, I can't remember the name of it. I tried. Rostov-on-Don. Oh shit, I should have said Asteroid City. Damn.
Okay, I'm gonna hook you up with some Beatles songs, like the good stuff. The good stuff they don't play on the radio.
Okay.
Yeah, the trippy shit.
I it's just too sanitized for me.
The radio shit, yes.
It sounds like kind of hipster, but it's just too popular. It's too normy. I just can't.
Do you know the song "Come Together"?
Not by the name, no.
Okay.
If I heard it, I'd probably recognize it, but
okay.
No, not by name.
It goes a little something. I'm gonna try pulling up the lyrics.
I can just pull it up on YouTube, I'm sure.
Yeah. That song is all about hating Ronald Reagan. It's something you would get.
Okay, I could appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just a diss track at Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. Like 2 fucking chords, and yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, it's very, very famous. They wrote that for the guy who was trying to kick his ass in the California election. Unfortunately, he did not win.
Yeah.
And the rest is unfortunately history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good try. Good try, boys. Get him next time.
We'll get him next time. Then John Lennon got shot.
Damn.
Damn.
All right, Yoko. Get in here.
Yoko. Oh, God. There's a Beatles track. It's called Revolution Number 9. That had
Mm.
a lot of Yoko's influence on it. If you would like, I highly recommend that. If you think the Beatles are too sanitized,
I'll keep it in mind.
yeah, we should actually make a fucking video on that, a reaction video. Cairo reacts to Revolution 9 by the Beatles. Would you like to know the genre of that song?
Okay.
Sound okay. This is from the
Sure.
Wikipedia page, right?
Yeah.
Sound collage, experimental, avant-garde, musique, concreta, psychedelia, and surrealist.
God, experimental music is like saying a gigantic shrimp. It's just so opposite ends of the spectrum.
I will say Revolution number 9 is one of those things that people either love it or hate it. Going to say it right now, most people hate it.
Hmm. Well, I will give it a try. See how it goes.
You won't last 5 minutes.
In the meantime, what won't last 96 hours,
Oh, fuck.
the crew of Titan, at this point, I believe. So, I'm curious what your thought is. Are they dead? Are they dead a different way? Are they dead a third way? Is it a CIA cover up or is it aliens?
It's clearly a CIA cover up because Hunter Biden was supposed to be in court this week.
I think, we talked briefly before we went up here about how I'm just kind of like tired of the whole media blitz around this. And
Yes.
the thing that really it's amazing. There's always something more exhausting in our world today. And the constant just barrage of what about Hunter Biden has to be up there.
I mean,
It is because it's like it's got the element of just like, yes, this is dumb, but there's also that side of it where it's just like you're seeing these people that are starting to use their brains for the first time in 10 years, and it's not quite all firing right. There's smoke coming out the back and it's not quite going, but it's firing up. They're almost getting there, and then they stumble over the 5-yard line and don't actually click into like what's happening. It's like, yes, we do live in a broken world with broken governments that are inherently unfair. No, it's not because of Hunter Biden. I think one of the best examples of it was there's like people just like, Hunter Biden got off easy. This is a horrible thing. There's clearly some CIA plot going on to distract from it. And apparently the sentencing is more than what Roger Stone got.
are you serious?
That's what I heard. I didn't give enough of a shit to look into it past a headline, but yeah, that was what I heard.
I mean, I've always found the Hunter Biden story to be just a non-story.
Because it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that happened.
I mean,
There's probably some level of, hinky bullshit, maybe even a degree of criminality.
yes, I
But
get that he's a piece of shit, but guess
yeah,
what? He's not the only one.
I don't even necessarily say. I mean, he's clearly got problems. Dude's
Yeah.
an addict, or at the very least, right?
Yeah.
There's no disputing that. But I don't give a shit. You know who else is a piece of shit? All of Trump's kids.
Exactly.
Don't hammer on about that for 24 fucking hours a day. Because it doesn't fucking matter. Hunter Biden's not the goddamn president.
Did you hear? Were you ever around when they okay? So here's media theory, Corey speaking. And the infamous Orion speaking. So there's this thing, a lovely little side effect in media theory called agenda setting, which tells like people what to think about, because like that's the main story.
Yeah.
That's what most right wingers would say the submarine story was, just people distracting from thinking about Hunter Biden. A lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of this Hunter Biden isms was starting to fade for a point because it was just, the law works very slowly. So they tried going after Biden's daughter. Do you remember when that was becoming a thing?
No, I missed that, I guess.
Oh, it was so stupid. I hated it. But that's how agenda setting works.
Mm-hmm. So let's get the whole submarine Titan thing out of the way here.
One second, I'll grab my guitar.
It started up about a week ago. I guess it would be technically, now that we officially have a good idea of what happened, where the craft Titan, owned and operated by the company Ocean Gate, was boarded by 5 individuals, including the owner of the company, and one of the, I guess, like, I don't actually know how the crew breaks down for it because the little descriptor here on it doesn't make sense. And you know what? I don't really give a shit. 5 people were on it. Some number of them were the passengers paying to be there, and some number were employees of the company, and that's all that really matters.
Yes.
Um, they descended on that day with the intent being to view the wreck of the Titanic, the cruise, the RMS Titanic that crashed famously. And that same day, contact was lost to them with the surface crew, and they were missing. With the assumption at the time being that the ship, the vessel, I guess it would be, it's not really a ship, likely imploded, killing everyone pretty much instantly. Now, like 4 or 5 days later, based on debris that was found in the area, and apparently some non-zero amount of, like, I don't want to say corpse because that, yeah, is it still a corpse if it's like paste?
I
I
would.
guess it technically. They found evidence that was sufficient to say that the presumed implosion is what happened. But yeah, it's the kind of thing where, like, if it happened how everybody kind of assumes, it's like graphic and kind of awful, but also it just happened so fast that you barely even know what happened. So,
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to me that this story was set up to be like this big rescue mission, and it
mm-hmm.
ends with just
Yeah,
oh no, here's actually what, like
they're
they,
all fucking dead.
yeah, they kept spinning this story as in like feel for these guys who are at the
Yep.
bottom of the ocean, you know, don't know if they're going to be saved or not. When in reality, we've had pretty strong evidence that it was not that case, and the PR company really should have just tried silencing the story before it got that
Yeah.
big.
And it only got worse in the aftermath. So, this is, to me, this is like the real story, right?
Yeah,
That this company was allowed to operate within the laws of the nations that they were tied to. Because while obviously in the open waters, there is, basically, it's international territory, right? It is no one country's property at that point. So no one set of laws apply. But they still have to be moored to a country. You can't be stateless or
yeah.
else you just get killed by pirates. Um,
Hate it when that
there
happens.
there should be a country somewhere that they were tied to that should have had provisions in place to either prevent or make it much more difficult for this kind of a tragedy, not even cause tragedy, this kind of a disaster to happen. Because it's not tragic. It's just dumb. It's incompetent. Right? It's not like the fucking Hindenburg where, there's this air of, you know, pushing boundaries just for it to go up in literally a ball of fire. This is just incompetence layered on incompetence layered on lying about where your materials are coming from, layered on buying materials that are expired, layered on controlling the fucking thing with an Xbox controller. Like, it's just so dumb. So I'm just going to read through the testing and inspection segment on the Wikipedia page for OceanGate. OceanGate claimed on its website as of 2023 that the Titan was, quote, designed and engineered by OceanGate in collaboration with experts from NASA, Boeing, and the University of Washington. After the disappearance of the Titan in 2023, the University of Washington stated that the Applied Physics Laboratory had no involvement in, quote, design, engineering, or testing of the Titan submersible,
I
end
love it when
quote.
they do that.
A Boeing spokesperson also said that Boeing was, quote, said that Boeing, quote, was not a partner on the Titan and did not design or build it, end quote. A NASA spokesman said that NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center had a Space Act agreement with OceanGate, but, quote, did not conduct testing or manufacturing via its workforce or facilities, end quote. Rush had touted partnerships with NASA, Boeing, and UW to Pogue in 2022 in response to a question about the perceived MacGyvery jerry-riggedness. That's a quote, apparently. Improvisational design based on the use of off-the-shelf components. David Lockridge, the OceanGate's director of marine operations, inspected the Titan as it was being handed over from engineering to operations and filed a quality control report in January 2018, in which he stated that no non-destructive testing of the carbon fiber hull had taken place to check for voids and delaminating, which could compromise the hull strength. Instead, Lockridge was told that OceanGate should rely on the real-time acoustic monitoring system, which he felt would not warn the crew of potential failure with sufficient time to safely abort the mission and evacuate. The day after he filed his report, he was summoned to a meeting in which he was told the acrylic window was rated only to a depth of 4,300 feet, because OceanGate would not fund the design of a window rated to the 13,000 feet. In that meeting, he reiterated his concerns and added he would refuse to allow crude testing without a hull scan. Lothridge was dismissed from his position as a result. OceanGate filed a lawsuit against Lothridge that June, accusing him of improperly sharing proprietary trade secrets and fraudulently manufacturing a reason to dismiss him. The suit was settled later that year.
How stupid.
And at this point, we know how that ended up.
I always thought this kind of capitalism, like business cuts, were only for businesses for poor people. I always imagined like that other places would go out of their way to like find any reason to jack up the price for the richies.
After the tests were completed in January 2020, the hull of Titan began to show signs of cyclic fatigue, and the craft was derated to 9,800 feet. The Spencer-built composite cylindrical hull was either repaired or replaced by Electro Impact and Janicki Industries in 2020 or 2021, prior to the first trips to Titanic. According to Rush, the carbon fiber materials had belonged to Boeing, but OceanGate had purchased them at a significant discount because they were past their shelf life. Boeing stated they had no record showing they sold carbon fiber to OceanGate or Rush.
So,
You know what the real tragedy is? Every single person working in a service industry where they do those stupid little like 20-foot submarine tours of like coral reefs.
yeah.
God help
Oh,
those poor folk.
you're right. Man, that is going to suck. That's like the Hindenburg of submarines right there. Get out while you can. Take all your money out of the stocks for your submarine voyages.
Oh my god. Wreck expert Paul Henry Nargiolet, who was on board, this is on, told me he wasn't worried about what would happen if the structure of the Titan itself were damaged when at the bottom of the ocean. Quote, under that pressure, you'd be dead before you knew there was a problem, he said with a smile.
With a smile?
You jinxed it, dude! Now you're fucking dead!
Oh my wa. Moi de shinderu. I need to watch Fist of the North Star.
This is just a week of dumb news stories, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we had some
They've
pretty
just
big
been
ones.
lined up.
Yeah.
So apparently they had plans for additional submarines, and I'm gonna guess that those aren't gonna be going forward immediately.
You don't say.
I don't know. See, that's the thing, right? Like, the amount of what I can only describe as narcissism that allows individuals to accrue and retain the amounts of money that these people do to afford these kinds of trips at $250,000 a person just for the going down part, I can't help but think it'll keep going on. And they'll just think, oh, it'll never happen to me. I'm better.
I was listening to a Last Week Tonight, an old episode at least,
Mm.
um, with John Oliver. I'm kind of going through withdrawals because of this writer strike, but keep on striking,
Right.
writers.
Absolutely.
Don't let my addiction influence you. And it kind of drew on me that John made this point about Americans and how in Britain they're very rigid because they are stuck in a class system that's been that's beyond them. That it's been way before they were there, and it'll be there after they're gone. So you get British people who are more rigid, and a lot of European people that way. But with Americans, we have like the quote unquote American dream, and that has always inspired us to be a lot more optimistic than a lot of people. And I see a lot of that optimism there with people who were dumb enough to go back on a sub after all this.
Yep.
Yeah.
In case there was any need for more irony and bits of Schadenfreude, in 2019, Rush expressed his view that the Passenger Vessel Safety Act of 1993, quote, needlessly prioritized passenger safety over commercial innovation.
Uh,
Just like,
shouldn't commercial innovation be passenger safety?
so fucking much arrogance.
It's a reverse Icarus. He flew too close to the Titan. Why would you ever want to go to see the ruins of the Titanic? 'Cause I would not.
No,
It's horrifying.
not really. Like, I would be fascinated to control a remotely operated like probe, a drone, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to physically go down there because of this exact kind of fucking reason.
Yeah.
The risk is just so fucking immense. It's just not worth it.
I agree.
Or not even really the risk, but you put yourself in a situation that is so extreme that if something goes wrong, the window of time to correct it doesn't exist. Right?
Yeah.
Even if you're talking like when Cameron did his shit, when he did this, right? In like 2012 or something, he did a similar thing where he's like, oh, let's go down and see the fucking Titanic. It's just like there is no amount of design that you can do to mitigate the fact that at those depths there is so much fucking pressure that you just can't mitigate the what if something goes wrong factor. It's like going into space, right?
Yeah.
What if something goes wrong? You fucking die. Even if it's like statistically more likely that you're going to die in a car crash, I know that if I see something going wrong, I have a window of opportunity that I can likely react and try to mitigate it.
You're right.
There's a level of control there that I would not want to give up to go on something like this.
It is truly a hubris that I don't understand. I'm not a fan of the ocean in general. It's a fucking demonic soup with a lot of demon creatures in there. If there is a hell, it looks something like the ocean.
I can definitely appreciate that, and I don't disagree, but I don't have an aversion to it because of that.
Really?
No. If anything, I think that makes it more interesting. Like, if I'm going to go down into the bottom of the fucking ocean, I want to see a goddamn kraken. I don't give a shit about some shitty boat that was mismanaged 100 years ago. Show me horrors beyond my comprehension, goddammit. Make it worthwhile when I die.
So I agree with you on that, but at the same time, I really just fucking hate that the possibility is down there. Like, if there's a kraken down there, that's cool. I'm gonna do my thing on land.
I'll say, I personally, it seems very unlikely to me that there is anything like that. I think there's definitely creatures that we have not seen because of where they live, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I feel like the scale and the dangerousness of them would not be so fantastical.
I imagine they'd be actually pretty docile because there's nothing in their environment to set a precedent for
Yeah,
how they react to something like a sub coming at their face.
right. They don't know what you are.
Yeah. And that's fine. It's just the concept of them that I fucking
Mhm.
hate. Like, I don't care if, like, the squid leaves me alone. I hate that I'm seeing a squid that's bigger than me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Like, this is Lovecraftian bullshit I'm on right now. Like,
I'll say, are you on Team Orca though?
I'm on Team Orca.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good, good.
Eat
That's
the
good.
rich.
Get them boats.
Get those. Oh my God. The Nintendo of America president, Doug Bowser, posted photos of orcas like on a sea bay with him. And it's very clear he was on a boat. And everybody was like commenting under his photo, Doug, get out of the water. Doug, get out of the water.
Yeah.
But seriously, Team Orca is the correct decision, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually saw an interesting, it's like happening. This is the kind of thing that is unfolding so quickly with these seemingly not coordinated, but too many of them too quickly for it to be random chance.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's been this spur of orcas and other large aquatic mammals attacking boats. And I did see a really interesting thought on it because we know, looking at uh, humans, that when temperatures increase to like extremes, like 90 degrees plus, so like during the summer, violent crime increases as well.
Yes.
And it's believed that the general like stress that it is being put on your body as a result of the increased heat is what causes there to be like that sort of like lack or that delay of rational thought, right? More impulsive, more likely to commit a crime of passion or, domestic violence incidents, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was speculating that given how ocean temperatures are also increasing now,
Ooh.
we could be seeing on a much, not as extreme scale, but the same conceptual level, a similar thing happening.
I mean, that's a pretty interesting nature, like,
Yeah, it's
checkpoint. Yeah.
it's probably not accurate, but it is a compelling thought.
I interpret this more as territorial orcas. I think people are just like not
Mhm.
realizing that orcas are probably territorial.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and boats are fucking loud.
Yeah. And what do they use? Like, don't orcas use sound to navigate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
and
probably don't
communicate.
like it.
Yep.
They probably think this is just some fucking big whale in their territory and they're just like, get the
Yep.
fuck out of here.
Think about how frustrating and upsetting it is when somebody starts doing a construction project at 8 in the morning. And then
Exactly.
imagine that is happening 24 hours a day, all the time, forever. Eventually, you're gonna fucking snap.
Team Orca.
Yeah. Though, if God wanted us to have the waters, he would have given us gills.
You're right. And that I out of that respect for the Almighty, I will not go into the fucking ocean. Thank you, God.
Now, on that note, here's some blasphemy to balance it out.
Oh God, no.
No. But I do want to talk about it's just the carrying on with the stupidity. There is like a sort of what I'm hoping is going to be a bit of a flash in the pan thing, but it's very funny all the same. With Lance Armstrong talking about fairness in sports. I'm curious, what does his Wikipedia page look like? I'm sure it's. I think that gives a pretty good idea of what this is going to look like. When you search Lance Armstrong, Google auto completes it with Lance Armstrong doping.
That's so funny.
Very funny.
So we can agree, doping in sports is bad.
Yes, doping in sports is bad, and Lance Armstrong is a gigantic piece of shit for having done so.
And then, okay, so here's the big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trans people in sports is good.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is the most frustrating part for me, right?
Yo.
If not, I'm not, let me rephrase this. The number of people who fall under the broad banner of LGBTQ plus is so much fewer than both the fervent media outlets and social media in general would like you to think. It is absolutely paramount to protect these groups and make sure that themselves as individuals and their rights are not being violated. But these kinds of incessant news cycles about them are so overblown because of just how uncommon it is for there to be trans athletes in the first place, let alone trans athletes competing at any sort of level where a difference in advantage could be perceived. It is so rare.
I am just of the opinion all sports are pretty meaningless, all things
Yeah.
considered. Because here's the scholarship argument, right?
Mhm.
Everybody argues that it's more important in high school because kids are going to need those scholarships to get into college. But, and here's
I
the
have a solution for that.
yeah,
Go
same.
ahead.
So besides the big obvious one with student debt being taken off the platform,
No.
um, ultimately, who gives a fuck? The NCAA is always been corrupt, and you don't want your kid becoming a
Oh,
student
yeah.
athlete because that's a terrible life to wish upon anybody.
Yeah. It's not like we just had a gigantic student admission scandal involving sport, students being involved with sports, and the biggest fucking air quotes I can put as a pretense for them to be able to get into prestigious universities.
Yeah, really, because I don't think colleges really care about sports for extracurriculars for admissions either, because there's a lot of cooler shit right now that colleges would like you to probably have instead of sports.
Um, so it is, it's hard to say, right?
Yeah,
Because college sports, from the perspective of the university, is one of the few things that they can actually turn a regular profit on because they don't have to pay anyone.
yeah,
They pay a coach and they pay for the property, but they have the land already. All these universities are, hundreds of years old in some cases.
yeah.
So that's bought and paid for. All they have to worry about is paying one coach and for some equipment. And they've got 150 free employees to bring in revenue that is also coupled to the fact that these individuals' families are going to come and watch them play when they otherwise wouldn't.
Of course. So, can I just bring up one thing as we kind of go down this bunny trail?
Please.
All the things we're talking about in terms of like sports have bigger issues than just who's playing
Yes,
them.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because I am also of the opinion that the NCAA should probably be dissolved, but I
Mm-hmm.
also know it's too much of a moneymaker for that ever to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So pay student athletes instead.
The big thing for me is that there are just so many existing advantages that an individual can incidentally have through either genetic lottery or treatment for any other condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like look at education, you know? There is no surprise that the illegal use of opiates that are regularly prescribed for ADHD is tied to, you know, other competitive aspects that are less physical, right? People taking opiates and other stimulants to, do more studying or, just be mental stimulants in general in education fields. But at the same time, those drugs also have a legitimate purpose for people who need to take them.
Yeah.
And you don't get disqualified or banned from like going to university because you have ADHD.
I don't know, Kyril. If they found out in college I was doping the whole time for like pass my classes, I might get my degree revoked.
Just so jacked.
Do you know how much Adderall I took?
The really stupid thing for this, on top of the fact that the idea of Lance Armstrong whose name is synonymous with cheating in sports, trying to have a discussion about fairness in sports. Like, that's hilarious enough as it is that this is actually just all him trying to market his YouTube channel, where he's going to be putting out some video series about this thing.
I'm sure it's going to be an absolute fucking banger.
Oh, yeah.
Happy Pride Month, y'all.
Happy Pride Month. Ha! Oh, this is good. His initial thing says, have we really come to a time and place where spirited debate is not only frowned upon, but feared, where people's greatest concern is being fired, shamed, or canceled? As someone all too familiar with this phenomenon, I feel I'm uniquely positioned to have these conversations. Readers added context that they thought people might want to know. Armstrong was not canceled. After lying under oath and misleading official doping investigations for 13 years, he publicly confessed to using performance-enhancing drugs in 2013.
I don't understand it. Like, why do they keep saying we're not having spirited debates when it's really just they go onto their own private networks where they can have a one-sided conversation?
It is infuriating because there was also this... Stupid is the word of the goddamn week. There's this, I don't even want to call it a debate. I don't even call it discussion. There was this idiot fucking anti-vaxxer who went on Joe Rogan's podcast, who was just like an out and out anti-vaxxer. And he's just like, his whole fucking argument is, I'm healthy, so vaccines must suck.
Well, gee whiz, good on fucking you, buddy.
And a doctor on Twitter was just like, yeah, this is anti-vax and it's stupid and you shouldn't listen to it. And he comes back and he's just like, well, why won't you debate me? Are you scared? Do you fear rational debate? No. Why would a doctor debate science with a not doctor?
Because it's too easy.
If you go up to fucking Muhammad Ali as a fucking child and say, fight me, bro, and Muhammad Ali goes, no. You're not going to say that he's scared. You're not even in his goddamn weight class. Fuck off.
That's another thing I want to bring up here, right? Because, like, this was one that got me for a moment until I actually thought about it. Right. A lot of people argue like it's not fair to have, you know, transgender people in sports because, like, what if combat sports are a thing and then someone gets hurt? Weight classes are definitely a fucking thing. Yeah. And that's like the reason why you never got fucking Muhammad Ali versus Bruce Lee, because those two good fighters, Muhammad Ali would kill Bruce Lee. I see this as a fanboy, but Ali is just a fucking tank, and here's Bruce, who is a normal dude.
Oh yeah, Ali had to have like what, a good 80 pounds and 3-4 inches over Bruce Lee at both their peaks. Like it's not even close.
It's not even close, and that's so frustrating to me because like when we do sports, we kind of do it so it's fair in general, and like you're telling me this one little thing is going to make it not fair all of a sudden. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's one of those things that's just so inherently stupid, but it gets everybody's attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's and the thing for me is that any argument that you can try to apply to why it is unfair for trans athletes can just as well be applied to any other number of... Is it fair to let somebody with a genetic defect that allows them to be better at swimming to compete with mere mortals? But it still fucking happens, and he's got the 13 gold medals to prove it.
Do you know what the runner's gene is?
I do. That's the one where it's like your body doesn't produce lactic acid, isn't
it? It's something
so, like,
similar
you,
to
like,
that.
Literally don't feel the burn of your muscles as you exert them.
Yeah. So I found out I have the runner's gene, apparently. Like, I can still sprain myself, but I just found that out because I took like an ancestry DNA test and whatnot.
Sure.
Yeah. So does that mean that people with the runner's gene shouldn't run a fucking marathon?
That's the question.
Yeah.
That is the real question that needs to be asked, right? If you want to impose some sort of artificial limits on when and where trans athletes can participate in professional sports, are you going to extend that same limiting criteria to non-trans athletes? Are you going to say somebody who, because we had this thing with some of the African runners in the Olympics, where they're perfectly normal genetic individuals. They've not taken any sort of drugs, performance enhancing or otherwise, but these women had atypically high testosterone amounts, and they fucking killed it at the Olympics.
Oh, darn.
Are they allowed to compete or not?
Are you going to do like testosterone tests on every performer? And if they go over a certain threshold,
Right.
then you have to like get them out because that's not fair?
And who sets that limit?
Yeah, is that like the weight class of like everything going forward in sports?
And the reality is that there's so many aspects to it that there is not going to be any one good answer.
And it's all meaningless because who the
It's all
fuck
meaningless because
cares?
you're talking about a population of individuals that are actually competitive of like single digit people.
Yeah.
Like literally. I remember when it was Utah or Nevada. I can't remember which. One of those states, probably Utah, as I think about it. They passed a transgender youth sports ban that literally impacted a single person.
Yeah.
It was one person in the entire fucking state that would no longer be allowed to play in the run or something in the sport that they were playing in. And that was it. And they passed a whole fucking state law to not allow it.
So now let's imagine there is someone who's like a megalomaniac who does that just to win.
Mm-hmm.
How is no one going to smell that bullshit a mile away?
Do you know who that megalomaniac would be?
Who?
Lance fucking Armstrong.
Yo, are you telling me? Imagine if that's what he was thinking. Like, do I go trans so I can go? You know, I'm disqualified from men's sports for doping, but I have not been disqualified from women's sports for doping.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he starts like going down the Google rabbit hole, and then he starts going for. I think we're on to something. I think we are genuinely on to something here. You, my friend, have found it.
Yeah. You know what I'd like to see? Just as much as anything. You know, I would rather see sports just be like, no holds barred. Do all the fucking drugs you want.
Like, let's push people to like the actual limits of humanity.
Like, if you're gonna go to one extreme or the other, where you're gonna say that nobody can compete unless they meet your specific criteria that just happens to be the one that allows you to compete and not other people, go the other way.
Yeah.
Just let everybody do whatever the fuck they want. Who cares? You're gonna die by the age of 35, but hey, Lance, you know, you've already lost one testicle and all your dignity and self-respect, so what's else to lose? I do want to briefly talk. It's good way to segue to it, going in like the little weight class thing there. Did you hear? Apparently, there is not confirmation, but discussion happening about a potential MMA style fight between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk.
Yes, and it is dumb because Elon's been going on Twitter announcing like how skilled of a fighter he is, and
I say let him.
I mean, yeah, let them fucking kill each other. I'm all for it.
Like just nobody say anything. Don't tell them how dumb it is.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's great.
Let
me see if I can find this real quick. There's a little graphic I saw that was their like side by side of their weight class comparison.
Oh, what is it?
Elon is bigger than Zuckerberg,
yeah.
But he's also this is it. So Elon Musk, 5'11", about 180 pounds, 51 years old. Mark Zuckerberg, 5'7", about 150 pounds, 39 years old.
Oh,
Elon's training regime lifts weights sometimes. His diet, quote, I'd rather eat tasty food and live a shorter life. Zuckerberg, diet, quote, this year I've basically become a vegetarian since the only meat I'm eating is from animals I've killed myself. Which, like, Mark Zuckerberg is a piece of shit, but that goes pretty damn hard.
It does.
His training regimen recently completed the Murph Challenge, which is running a mile followed by 100 pull-ups, 200 press-ups, 300 squats, then running another mile, all while wearing a 20-pound weighted backpack.
Holy fuck.
The kicker, he did it in under 40 minutes.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So it's safe to say he's in pretty good shape.
I did not know Zuckerberg was actually a fitness bro.
He is like actually like jujitsu trained.
Is he?
Like actually trained.
Like, let me check this out here because like,
maybe I have the like discipline wrong, but he has official martial arts training.
Let me look this up. I know a little bit about martial arts. Let me check this out. Does Mark Zuckerberg do martial arts? He's trained in, yeah, he's legit Brazilian
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu.
yeah, yeah. No, he's legit.
Yeah.
Like, dude's a piece of shit. I despise most everything he represents. I wouldn't go up against a fight with him because he'd beat my ass. I have 100 pounds on him. He'd still beat my ass.
Yeah, that's the thing about jiu-jitsu. Like, the scary thing about Brazilian jiu-jitsu is it's one of those fighting styles where if you don't know how to fight against the technique, you're going to lose.
Yep.
Yeah. Because, like, the whole point of it is to get you on the fucking ground where you're limited, and then you get the opponent on the ground where they're limited, and then you have all, like, the movement options because you fucking trained to fight on the fucking ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Elon, you got more weight there. You're not getting up that fast.
It's cool. There's actually apparently video of Zuckerberg at jiu-jitsu tournaments and
Are
like doing well.
Oh, God. Okay, I'm looking this up. I gotta see how the homie fights. Oh, my God. You type in Zuck. First thing that comes up, Zuckerberg Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, it's the hot button topic.
Oh, my God.
Everybody, as much as everybody dislikes Zuckerberg and Facebook and like the tech sphere, everybody hates Elon Musk so much more.
Like, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Everybody dislikes Zuckerberg. Everybody
Yes.
hates Elon.
I don't like what Zuckerberg represents. I hate Elon Musk. And it's just like everybody's just like, oh no, let him fight.
Yo, let him cook.
Let him cook.
Oh, my God. He's actually doing, like, the moves.
Yeah. No, he's trained.
This is not right. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm scared.
Did you hear about Elon Musk's street fight move, the Walrus?
So here's the thing. You can't train for street fighting. According to him, he's trained for street fighting.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
That's not a thing. It's not an actual fighting style. Street fighting is just a manner of fighting when there's
just
no
fighting.
tournament rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you... He's... The best way for him to, like I've said, that would have been MMA because there's no defined MMA style. It just means he knows how to mix arts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I was looking over it because one of my friends sent me that thing because he was like, hey, is this actual martial arts shit? It sounds like Elon just took a self-defense class.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would believe that.
Yeah, because, like, everything he says is just stuff that lines up for a normal self-defense class. Like, good on you, Elon. Yeah, definitely do that. I think everybody should take a self-defense class, but at the same time, it's not something you should brag about. Because, like, the whole point of starting, like, a self-defense course is to end a fight before it gets too heated. There's no real offense. It's more of a defense thing. And, like, I'm sorry. I'm seeing Zuck just go ham on people right now, and it scares me. I could not win against Zuck.
No.
No. Zuck is the alpha male. And I should not be saying that.
Relatively speaking.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's still, like, in the hierarchy of alpha male, like, TM. Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could afford jiu-jitsu classes.
You know who can afford jiu-jitsu classes, though?
Who?
Allegedly, Yevgeny Prigozhin. God, I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce this name. Yevgeny Prigozhin. The, I guess now former boss of the Wagner private military group.
That was a good segue. Go on. I'm intrigued.
He's got that bag. So, what a fucking wild 48 hours it's been trying to keep up with this. Saturday in the early hours, reports were coming out of the Wagner military group leaving their positions in Ukraine and starting to march back into Russia, where they took control of the Russian city Rostov-on-Don, which is one of the main Russian military headquarters in the southern region overseeing the fighting ongoing in Ukraine. At the time, according to Britain's Ministry of Defense, it appeared that Prigozhin's forces had gained control of the military headquarters in Rostov. So that's pretty serious, right?
Yeah.
Allegedly, this entire thing started over uh, a situation that Prizgen alleged Russian forces had attacked Wagner field camps in Ukraine. That is unconfirmed. It's not known what triggered it, if that even happened. And given that he claimed that this happened on Friday, we'll see that that is even more questionable. Um, Regardless, the Wagner private military group took control of Rostov and started to posture and make threats about moving on to Moscow from there. At the same time, Russian President Vladimir Putin went on a televised address calling the uprising a stab in the back and threatening treason for all those participating. All those who prepared the rebellion will suffer inevitable punishment. The armed forces and other government agencies have received the necessary orders.
What's that supposed to mean?
That is a good question. Next question. Literally, no one fucking knows. At this point, were people, particularly, like pretty much everywhere, I think, because I don't think even people in Russia knew what the hell was going on. I saw a hilarious video on like early in the morning on Saturday of Wagner troops in Rostov standing in line at a supermarket buying alcohol.
That's pretty awesome.
It's just like, yeah, peak, like that's Russia. Yep, go get your pre-deployment vodka. But it's no one knows what the hell's happening at this point. No one knows what's going on, but it seems at least like all of this is actually happening, right? It's not just like false flags and misinformation, because there's videos coming out that don't match up with videos that had been recorded prior of Russian military forces attacking the Wagner group and vice versa, including damage that is being done to helicopters and planes. And apparently, there was something like a half dozen helicopters that ended up being shot down as a result of this, a number of Wagner trucks and transports that were damaged, and something like 6 Russian pilots who are now dead as a result of this. So it seems like this was something that actually happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the kind of thing that it's so stupid. It's easy to think that, oh, obviously they're just trying to fake it for attention or to give the perception of weakness or something like that. But it seems like that's not the case. This is just something that actually happened. As Saturday goes on, the president of Belarus, Lukashenko, was seen going to Turkey. And shortly after, it was revealed that some sort of agreement had been made, and the fighters under the Wagner group had halted their movement to Moscow, according to Belarus sources. So this is coming from the Belarus government at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And soon after, we had confirmation that Pritzkin said he had accepted a truce brokered by the Belarus government. Following that, we have further details that come out that Pritzkin would be basically receiving amnesty in Belarus, that the Wagner armed forces would be folded into the main Russian army, and that amnesties would be given to everybody involved. So no treason charges.
Amazing.
In addition, Pritzkin claims that Russian forces found billions of rubles that belong to him, which I'm curious, what is the, because we looked at this before, I'm curious what the exchange rate is.
It's probably a lot better than when actually we last checked it.
Wait, that's 1,000, that's 1,000,000, that's 1,000,000,000. So 1 billion ruble is about $12 million. So substantial, to be sure.
Yeah.
But not like worth an army kind of money.
No, that's actually quite the deal for an army.
Yeah. So in the aftermath, we have had statements from many military officials from the West, particularly Anthony Blinken went on and did a bit of a press tour talking about how this mutiny shows cracks in Putin's authority. the U.S. officially announced that they would be postponing sanctions that were to be placed against the Wagner Group, saying they were concerned that it might give the appearance of siding with Putin in regard to this, and that apparently there was U.S. analysis as early as last Wednesday, 2 days before Pritzken's announcement of these friendly fire incidences on Friday, that there was action or that there's preparation for some sort of military action by the Wagner military group to happen against Russia. What an absolutely wild series of events.
Gotta give it to Russia, man. They know how to streamline a revolution.
Yeah, they got it down to like a 1 day turnaround. Good for
It's like
them.
speed running, really. It's kind of
Kind of.
elegant.
Man, I like the big question, right? Is like, is real. Was there actually some sort of a actual coup attempted that was quickly subverted? It seems like it was. I would wonder if this was just, we have seen through the exceptional poor quality of Russia's arms how inefficient their military funding has been. Everybody taking their cuts along the way. I have to wonder if he just wasn't getting paid, Pritzkin, and decided, fuck it, I'm gonna go get my goddamn money.
Yeah, why not?
And the Russian government, brokered by Belarus, is just like, all right, we'll give you your money, but you gotta fuck off to Belarus for forever.
I
Which,
mean,
a punishment worse than death, to be sure.
really? I mean, can he leave Belarus? Or is he just going
No,
there?
who fucking knows?
Yeah.
Will he even get to Belarus alive? Find out next week.
Oh, shit.
Like, that's the other question. Okay, Russia, who is very well known for being accepting of when other, political figures dissent from the main government line. That Russia that definitely exists. Yeah, it doesn't look good. And on top of that, we had some statements from Ukraine military officials that they haven't even gotten to the main push of this counter assault yet.
What's that mean?
They haven't even started. They're just messing around, just casually taking back ground, and we'll have to wait and see what the big push ends up being. In slightly more terrifying news, though, there was also a joint statement from the U.S. Congress saying that any attack or intentional sabotage of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine that is currently occupied by Russia would be treated as an invoking of Article 5 of the NATO treaty. NATO treaty, that's actually kind of like saying the treaty. It would invoke Article 5 of NATO and would push, the US and the EU to start taking the reins on this.
That's the last thing they want.
It is very much the last thing they want.
Like, I feel... I shouldn't say I feel bad, but like, there's got to be a point where, like, empathy is coming out of me a little bit at this rate. Because this is just such a fuck up. And this is like when you come into your friend's house and you want to play them in chess, and you talk like mad shit, and then they just, like, the queen's gone. You're trying to figure out how do you bounce back for this, and then your opponent takes like your 2 knights. So you're left with like 2 rooks, 2 bishops. Don't exactly know what you're going to do with this handful of pawns you have left. You realize you bit off a lot more than you could chew, fucking Russia.
Got empathy pouring out of you like shit out of Putin.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant empathy. I don't like that I'm empathizing. But at the same time, I've been there. So, there. Anything else?
Oh yes,
Oh
a couple
boy.
things at least. Only one real movie, like new movie release this week, with Nimona, Netflix exclusive, that is doing exceptionally well.
Hey.
Not a ton of reviews in for it yet, being it's a Netflix exclusive. It's not really in theaters, but 100% rating so far from critics, 80 from audiences, overwhelmingly positive. So Good job, Netflix.
Now don't cancel it.
Yeah. It's thankfully a movie, so that'll be more difficult for them to do.
I'm waiting for the day they cancel a movie halfway through production and then they just put the half-finished movie on there.
The half-finished movie. It's just like the rough screenplay.
Yeah, dude.
The storyboards.
The movie ends and then they just show the script of what they didn't finish filming.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great art house movie now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Show that at Sundance? Ooh.
Oh, you clean up.
Guys, I have the plot for the Two Schmoes movie now. I'm just going to make it so when the script starts demanding all this budget effects, that's when we cut to the script.
There is no Two Schmoes movie.
There is no Two Schmoes movie. No refunds. So,
this week on Thursday, I went and I saw a close as I have ever to a midnight showing of Asteroid City. It's technically a 10 p.m. showing, so I was home by midnight.
So, please tell us what's so special about fuck, I was about to say his name. Asteroid City?
Asteroid City. So Asteroid City is the latest flick from Wes Anderson. We talked about it briefly skimming through the reviews last week, and how there was this consensus amongst Rotten Tomato critics of Asteroid City is unlikely to win Wes Anderson many new converts, but those who respond to his signature style will find a return to immaculately arranged form. And I have to say that I don't disagree with any of that, but at the same time, I don't recommend seeing it. And as like the spoiler-free review, because I don't think there's a real way to talk about this movie without getting into spoilers, I would leave that as the takeaway of it's worth seeing, just not in theaters. You know,
okay.
See it as on streaming, see it as a DVD. Don't spend $15 on a ticket and 2.5 hours of your time to see it, because it's just not that caliber of film. It's good. There is interesting ideas in it. It is worth seeing at some point, just not at that price point.
Interesting.
And I was mentioning, like, my sort of like the best way that I can put it, right, is that I saw it on Thursday night. It's a very dense movie. There's a lot to unpack as you watch it. There were parts of it that I am still not entirely sure that I've unpacked fully. And I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just see it again on Friday night. I went, I bought a ticket. I had a ticket in my hand, I guess technically in my phone. And I was ready to see it Friday night. And by the time it got to about lunch, I came back to my senses and was just like, I don't want to waste both my Thursday night and my Friday night on this movie. And I refunded my ticket.
You're a Wes Anderson fanboy, though, so that's really saying a lot.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, right? If you want to spend your Thursday or Friday night watching a Wes Anderson movie, go rewatch the other one that you know that you already like. It can be any of them. Right? Because that's the big takeaway from it. If you're a Wes Anderson fan and you like his stylistic decisions, his meticulousness in how everything is done and arranged, you can appreciate that just as well by not going to a theater and doing that.
Okay.
And I don't think Asteroid City is worth the time and expense of going to that. Watch it at some point in the future, just not in theaters. Because, you know, like, that's the other thing, right? If you're a giant Wes Anderson fan and you want to see it like I did, go for it. You'll get something out of it, right? You know, it's not bad. It's just not the best thing in theaters right now. I'd rather go see Spider-Verse, the second Spider-Verse, another time than this. It's a much better entertainment product. Put it that way.
Can we talk about the big plot twist about Spider-Verse that came out this week?
Sure. That'll give good time for me to prep my thoughts for how to talk about the actual plot of this thing.
So apparently there's a second version of Spider-Verse, and you can go into a movie theater and not know which one it is, and they have very subtle differences. I
have to imagine it's not really different versions as much as just very slightly different edits.
That's a good point. That's so the big one is at the beginning of the movie, there's a scene with Miguel O'Hara and his AI companion, and the AI companion does different gags depending on which film version you're seeing. Yeah, it goes as far as a character gets entirely different lines, which is interesting to me because the character that they're referring to that does that, I always thought the character contributed nothing to the plot. And, they're a gag character, of course. But I always
Right.
thought it was really weird that no one ever responded to a thing that character says, and now it makes sense.
Because they were just doing A/B testing.
Yeah. It's very cool that they did something like this. Very scared for when they do it for the next movie.
I'm kind of surprised that they actually shipped out like a revision when they did.
Yeah.
Because it's so subtle. I don't think, I mean, literally, no one noticed that something was like wrong, right? There wasn't anything out of place or out of order. Materially to the plot, nothing changes from one version to the other. It's just this very slight, subtle difference that admitting you fucked up to such a small degree seems kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
I could see it happening with like the DVD release, you know? Like, oh yeah, the DVD release is slightly different than the theater release. Here's a fun fact for you, but to push out a revision, and I guess it's just the digital age we live in, right? Why not?
Yeah.
But it seems weird.
Now remember this, because over 100 artists quit working on Spider-Verse because it was too taxing due to 11-hour work days, and I respect that. This is why I did not go to school for animation like I originally wanted to as a kid. It's a very sad thing that animators go through. Appreciate their work.
I want movies that take longer to make, are shorter to watch, and cost more, and I'm not kidding. Like, actually, take more time, charge more for them, make them shorter, just treat your people fucking fairly.
Yeah. I'm not...
For the love of God, Marvel, don't use AI. What the fuck was up with that?
Oh my god, unforgivable. That's so ugly.
It's bad. And it doesn't add anything. It's just... It looks amateurish. Even like, you could... What a fucking moment for them, right? They could have put out something that was just like, slick and cool and just been like, that was actually AI generated. And they didn't. They just fucked it up and it looks like crap.
It looks like Dolly
Everybody
made it.
immediately called it for what it was.
Yeah. So for those of you not in the know, there's a Marvel TV show out right now. I know, who would have thought? They never put out TV shows. And the opening credits of this Secret Wars are all generated in fucking AI, and it's ugly.
Yep. It's bad.
Yeah.
I kind of get it a little bit, from like a conceptual standpoint, but the execution is just bad.
Yeah.
It's not well done.
You should have done a couple of revisions.
I am not a fan of the replacement of artists with AI, and I feel like this is just the best example of it. Let people improve their workflows, give them more time to spend with their families by using tools to assist with, predictive thing, right? Make it so that they don't have to animate one frame 50 times. They can animate it once, have 50 frames generated, and then go through and tweak and review it as they need to, or let them choose not to.
Yeah. Really, but AI should be
it's just bad. It's obviously, it looks like it's like a 2-year-old AI at that. That's the thing for me, is it just looks like, even in the current space, it looks dated.
For me, a lot of AI can only be used to its fullest potential by artists using it as an extension tool instead of people just using it as a supplement for actual art. And no one will ever, no self-respecting artist will use it the way that they want things to be made.
Spell check didn't replace editors, and for good fucking reason.
You're right. That's a great way of putting it.
All right. We're going to get into here because there's only like one other story. So I want to talk, that I have at least, about the plot of Asteroid City.
Please.
So, have you seen trailers for it or anything at all? Or just like...
I've seen trailers...
What is your foundation? I'm curious.
Yeah. So my full experience of this movie are trailers which are just Wes Anderson shots. I know nothing about the plot.
Yep.
And frankly, all Wes Anderson trailers are pretty much just Wes Anderson shots, because everybody just needs to know what a Wes Anderson movie looks like. Then no one cares about the plot going into it. They just want to see some pretty visuals to sell the ticket.
Pretty much. So, from the top, the film Asteroid City is not actually about Asteroid City. What
Boo.
it is it is like a not X-Files. I had this before. Like a 40s made for TV documentary kind of thing about the making of the play of the same name. And included in that is the running of this play, Asteroid City, that is what we see in the trailers.
Okay.
So there's like three levels here, right? You're at the documentary level, which is the sort of like the high level narrator, right? The out of the it's like the same level as the viewer, you know, where you are sort of omniscient, right? You see everything going on at the same time. There's the layer before that that is talking about the writing and the production of this play called Asteroid City. And then there's the final layer that is Asteroid City itself, that is this play.
Okay.
So, right off the bat, you have this very densely stacked structure to how this film is laid out. And as it goes through, it weaves back and forth going through these layers where you have the narrator coming in and going out at times. You have certain scenes that are exclusively showing you what's happening in the play Asteroid City, cut back and forth between talking about periods of the writing of the play from a fictional writer, of course, about how the cast for the play was selected at times, which is pretty much entirely superfluous. There's a scene detailing the director of the fictional play and some of the intermarriage problems that he has with his wife. It is scattered in so
It's
many different places. It's unfocused in a way that is very uncharacteristic of Wes Anderson.
it feels like three movies on top of each other.
Kind of. Very intentionally, though, I think. Because
Yeah.
that is the thing that I have to come back around to with this, is that at the end of the day, it is written, directed, produced, screenplay by Wes Anderson. And we know from his vast catalog of works up to this point that he is meticulous and immaculate. If there is something in the scene, it is because it is meant to be in the scene, right?
Mhm.
To a degree. Everyone makes mistakes, but from a high level conceptual standpoint, he's very consistent in that regard. So going into it from that perspective, the film kind of asks you to start to take apart the themes and the narratives that are being presented to you to try and figure out the larger meaning of what is going on in the movie. And it makes it really hard to talk about because where do you start, right? When you have a movie that is so narratively unfocused in an intentional way as this, it makes it hard to try to summarize it in a way that's not just recounting the entirety of the movie.
Okay.
Because so much of it is, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, right?
Yeah.
The glue that would tie together a typical movie isn't there. It's just these three narratives layered on top of each other. But the other side to that is that from I don't even know if this is quite the right word, like a meta textual level, it is able to then sort of weave a theme through it that is there and is interesting and is meaningful, but at the same time is really easy to miss if you just want to go in and if your entire experience with Wes Anderson's work is you saw Fantastic Mr. Fox and the Grand Budapest Hotel and Isle of Dogs, which are all meticulous and immaculate and very well made, but traditional narrative structures. And you go into this expecting another thing like that because that's by all accounts what the trailers presented to you. You're going to be left confused because that isn't there.
So, would you say this is like the next logical jump after French Dispatch?
It feels to me like an idea that he probably had writing the French Dispatch that didn't fit into the French Dispatch that he decided to then expand on kind of too much in this. So in the French Dispatch, at the very end, when they're going through the story of the police cook, there is the overarching story talking about the police officer and how they're able to get his son back by using the police chef's immaculate cooking to sort of bait the kidnappers into letting their guards down, and they let him bring in a bunch of poisoned food that, you know, killed all of them, and then they were able to resuscitate the chef, right?
Yeah.
And then at the very end of that, it cuts to Jeffrey Wright and there's so many fucking names. Jeffrey Wright talking to the editor of the newspaper, going through, like, then the newspaper's just like, well, that's it. And Jeffrey Wright's just like, well, there was kind of one more piece. And he goes in detail about how in the aftermath of that, he's sitting with the chef as he's recovering from, you know, getting the antidote to the poison that he had taken to bait them in. And the chef comments on how the poison had a flavor unlike anything else that he had experienced. And how, you know, the editor remarks, well, you gotta leave that in. That's the best part. You can't take it out. Asteroid City feels like what if you took that part out on purpose? And you give people a little taste of what that part would be, but you never actually show it to them.
Okay.
So, Asteroid City, I'm gonna go through Asteroid City, the play that is presented first.
Okay.
Because there's not a ton of meat to it. On purpose, right? It is intentionally confusing. Or not intentionally confusing, intentionally convoluted. And it means that there's not a whole lot of importance that actually comes out of it. Asteroid City follows Augie Steenbeck, a war photographer who is traveling with his 4 children to visit his father-in-law because his wife is very ill and, unbeknownst yet to his children, has actually already passed away. On their way, their car breaks down. They stop through Asteroid City, where they intended to stop already, in order to have their car repaired, and at the same time have the father-in-law, played by Tom Hanks, come and pick up the daughters, because only the son needs to be there for this junior stargazer event. So they're now in Asteroid City. We get to see the other junior stargazers, and their parents arrive, played by a whole host of very recognizable faces. Liev Schreiber, Tilda Swinton, Scarlett Johansson, etc. They get to the Junior Stargazer event. All of the Junior Stargazers are given their various awards, and we get to see their quirky, fantastical experiments that they made. We get a cool little bit from Jeffrey Wright, who plays an army general, who is doing the sort of presentation of everything, and everybody just sort of goes on their way. We get a couple of quick scenes in between there, where it shows the Junior Stargazers kind of relating to all of their, you know, how their quirkiness makes them unique and sort of like outcasts amongst their peers at school, but together they kind of have similar experiences. They're able to relate to each other. We get some back and forth between Scarlett Johansson, who's the mother of one of the other Stargazers, and Augie, who are both single at this point. And Augie eventually does tell his children that their mother passed away.
Okay.
Second night, they go to a second event at the Asteroid City sort of Junior Stargazer thing, which is the viewing of the 3 ellipses or something like that, which is sort of like everybody puts on a sort of like solar eclipse looking sort of like head box thing to see a projection of this phenomenon. And then they see the 3 ellipses projected inside the box. And then all of a sudden a 4th ellipses appears. And it's green instead of the orange of the original 3. And Augie's son, Woodrow, one of the Stargazers, pulls his headpiece off and looks up and, oh my god, there's a spaceship. It's an alien. The alien descends, picks up the meteorite. Augie, being the photographer, takes a picture of it, and the alien goes away with the meteorite. That is what Asteroid City is named after.
Okay.
The army general quarantines everybody. So now they're in quarantine. They're trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Why did the alien come here? Why did he take the meteorite? On top of, you know, just like coupling with the fact that aliens exist, right?
I mean, I'm kind of still going over that in my own head right now.
Yeah. And it ends up kind of going a bit nowhere with it. Woodrow, Augie's son, in coordination with the other junior stargazers, are able to take the picture that Augie took and contact like a high school newspaper that one of them works with and transmit that secretly outside the quarantine, sort of, being the genius brainiac people that they are. And it turns into a media blitz. There's a whole fucking fair just outside the quarantine zone that springs up of people wanting to see the alien. It's a whole thing. Eventually, the president decides to just lift the quarantine because they can't really do anything about it. As far as anybody can tell, all the people who were impacted are fine. There's no like alien diseases that are spreading. So they go ahead and they go to what was supposed to be the final piece of the Stargazer event with some sort of closing remarks and then lifting of the quarantine. The general gives his remarks, and then the alien reappears and drops the meteorite back off, and then leaves again. And then the general snaps about how, well, we have to institute quarantine again. All of the people revolt because they don't want to go into quarantine again, and it's just chaos and pandemonium as they're trying to, break the quarantine. And that's the end of what we see of the play Asteroid City.
Okay.
Yes. On the next level up,
yeah,
we have the doings of the play, and we get most of it is kind of superfluous. We have a scene where Scarlett Johansson, who, the actress that she is playing, decides that she doesn't want to work on Asteroid City anymore, like the day before opening night. And the actor who plays Woodrow, Augie's son, chases after her and goes to bring her back. And at this point, he's technically only the understudy, and he does such a good job that she insists that he gets the main role because he knows all the lines and he does a fantastic job. So that's how he gets that one. We get a scene showing the writer who, God, what's his name? Conrad Earp, the writer of Asteroid City, the fictional writer of Asteroid City, played by, God, there's so many fucking names. Edward Norton, meeting the lead who would go to play Augie, played by Jason Schwartzman, and how their relationship starts. We see a bit of the director, who is played by Adrian Brody, and how, his troubles that he has through the production of the film. And then at the end of it, we get to this point where this big revolt is happening in Asteroid City. And it's a part in the play of Asteroid City, because the play apparently goes on past that. We just don't get to see it. So we get this piece where he, in the midst of this big revolt, this chaos that's happening, he stands up in the middle of it, everything's going chaotically around him, and he says, I don't get it. And he goes and he like walks off stage, like through like a little hidden door in the background, and he goes up to the director, and he's got like this gap where he doesn't need to do anything during the play, and he's talking to the director, and he's like, I don't get it. I don't get what is the point of the play? What are we doing? And the director just says, doesn't matter. You're doing great. Just keep doing it. And that's kind of like the meta through line to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we see earlier where the writer is asked about, like, okay, well, what is Asteroid City about? And he talks about in very sort of general platitudes of like science fiction. Oh, it's exploring what the meaning of the universe and the meaning of life is. And then at the end, in like the next level up, we get the answer to that, which is that there kind of isn't one. And that you just got to do what you're doing as best as you can.
Okay.
From there, we have, at this point, the actor who plays Augie goes to take a smoke break, basically, on the balcony. And he's standing on this like fire escape over an alley. And across the alley from him is the actress who was supposed to play his wife, who is dead in the film.
Mm-hmm.
There was supposed to be a scene that she was in, and her scene ended up being cut. And they go through in this back and forth, just going through the dialogue of what that scene would have been. And it's the scene that would have given context as to like the actual point of the play Asteroid City. But it ended up being cut, so we don't actually get to see it. We get to hear the dialogue of about what it would have been like, so we get a feeling for it and what it would have meant, but we don't ever actually see it. It doesn't exist in the actual play of Asteroid City.
Okay.
And that's kind of it. There's another piece that I am still trying to work through that I don't get, where There's a scene with the writer of the play talking with a teacher of other actors about, like the idea for the play, right? And the scene, or not, sorry, not the scene, the lesson for the acting students of the day is talking about the difference between sleeping and death when it comes to acting, and how, you know, when you're dead, you're dead, but when you're sleeping, you're still alive, you're breathing, your blood is pumping, you're moving still. And the instruction for the day is to, have all of these actors in training practice sleep acting. And it's kind of a nothing scene where nothing really happens. There's a bit of I don't even know what the word for it is. A bit in it where the director of the film comes in as well as part of the lesson and talks about a time when he, as an actor, accidentally actually fell asleep on stage. Excuse me. And was able to like wake up just in the nick of time to deliver the scene he was supposed to deliver. Um, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And then at the very end of the movie, we get kind of out of nowhere a scene that shows all of the individual student actors, amongst them being the actual, actors who played in the film, like Scarlett Johansson and Lee Schreiber, all one by one waking up and saying the same line, "You can't wake up if you don't fall asleep." And then eventually going into sort of like a chant of that, followed by the alien appearing and walking directly at the camera holding the meteorite.
Okay.
And then it cuts to credits.
So I understand what you're saying with a lot of this film and why it's
Yeah.
like very experimental almost.
Yes.
I'm
It feels more like art than movie to me.
Yeah, this feels like, and I don't want to say this in a rude way because I'm not meaning this in a rude way at all. Not to Wes Anderson or the people I'm going to
Yes.
like mention here. But like this feels like being in a college writing class and you have a lot of these young writers who are developing these skills and these abilities for the first time, and they're
Yep.
really getting like in a sandbox and they're really wanting to show their stuff in this very safe environment. It feels a lot like those, and I don't mean it in like a way as that's amateurish as much as it feels like it's a lot of stretching and trying to figure out what works where. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it's just very obtuse to me. I was looking up on Google like about this movie. You know how many 1-star reviews this fucker has?
How many is that?
A majority. If you look at the Google reviews,
Oh, Google reviews. Yeah, I believe it.
yeah, it is.
It's very polarizing, right?
Yeah,
Because if you want to go, like, if you see this in theaters, right, and you go to see a film to be entertained, this doesn't do it. It's a immaculately made piece of art, right? It's like going to an art museum and paying to see a dolly and not being entertained because you're not, right? That isn't the point of it. But there's the understanding going in that that's not really the point of it. It's not something to be briefly digested or briefly consumed, right? You're meant to look at it and digest it and work through it and try and understand the greater motivation. So I get why there's so many 1-star reviews, because it doesn't really work as a movie, as an entertainment product.
no, like I think it's really meta with like how you've
Absolutely.
described it and what I'm
It
seeing
is.
here. Yeah, and as much as Rick and Morty has conditioned us to like meta, I don't think this level of meta is that digestible to like the average
Yeah.
moviegoer.
I don't think so either. There were people in the theater with me when I was watching it that audibly were just like what? And that's it at the end of it, because it feels unfinished, because it is. It gets rid of a traditional movie structure in a way that is going to leave people feeling lost. And I don't think that's a good thing, right?
Not for someone as popular as Wes
It's
Anderson.
it's the kind of thing that deserves to stay at Sundance.
I
But
would,
this is too expensive for just Sundance, you know?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I wish you told me that sorry, Pardon my wish. You told me back at the beginning when we were doing a pre-show, this only had a budget of like 25 million, right?
Yeah, which is low for modern films.
I wish it was lower because this is expecting to make a profit. This should not make a profit in my eyes. This should go on there's a streaming service, a movie, that streaming service. This would be a good fit for that.
Yeah.
Movie is more for like experimenting with like movie types and discovering different styles of film.
You know, the big thing with it, right, is that the opening for it is the host played by Bryan Cranston, who is the host of this like documentary style piece that's the top level of it, opening by saying there is no asteroid city. It is a fictional play from the mind of the writer, Conrad, or something to that extent, right? And I don't think there's a way that you can market it that preserves the surprise of first hearing that.
Yo, it's on Mubi.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it deserves to be on here.
It's a difficult line to toe, and I don't think they succeeded.
No, I think this could use a rewrite. I think the ambition is there. I think the translation is not there, if that makes sense.
I don't even think it needs a rewrite. It just needs to have its scope really limited. Like I could totally see this working as like an actual stage play, right? If you don't have this set as like a full movie where you force it to be contained into what can fit on a stage, that intrinsically limits how much money you can spend on the, you know, the physical aspects of it, right? Because like this is a stupidly stacked cast. These people aren't being paid their normal wages to start with, right?
Yeah, it's Bryan Cranston,
You know,
for God's sakes.
Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton, Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Liev Schreiber, Steve Carell, Willem Dafoe, Margot Robbie, Jeff Goldblum. That's 13 gigantic names in film on a $25 million budget. You could easily pay that amount just for their costs alone. And they clearly didn't because the movie exists. These people were probably being paid basically nothing. And they were fine with that because they get to work on this very experimental, artsy film that they never would get to otherwise. You know, it gives them an opportunity to do something, maybe even outside of their own comfort zone. But they get to do it in a setting that no other director would offer or could offer even.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up with where we are now, just sort of stuck in the middle.
It reminds me a lot of how everything everywhere all at once was very meta as well, and very much pushed a lot of like plots, what a plot could be in a film.
Yeah.
I don't mind more directors doing this. I don't mind this. I think Asteroid City is a very good experiment to see what can be done with the general audience in receiving these types of films, because
for sure,
Everywhere, Everything All at Once didn't exactly blow up in the box office, but it sure got the critical praise, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I really can't stress enough is that this is absolutely something that should exist and should be seen and watched and studied and digested. It's just the theater, the common theater, is not the right place for that to happen, right?
You wouldn't show a Marvel fan this movie.
I don't even necessarily know that, right? You just have to have the right setting, you know? You don't go to Celebration Cinema for a colonoscopy, right?
Yeah.
This is a movie that forces you to think somewhat introspectively, and there's a lot of people that if you're not ready for that going into it are not going to like that aspect of it. And that's fine. That is a very, you know, invasive thing to have happen in a public space. And a public space is not going to be the right place for everybody to have that happen.
You're right. I don't know. I'm fascinated by this, and I haven't even seen it. It's just like the concept just has me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to when it eventually shows up on Max, and I'll probably make a decent day out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I like the French Dispatch's anthology like
Hmm.
style of a film, where it's basically like a magazine turned into a film.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that is really cool in my opinion. So like I want to see what he's kind of evolving on with what he's learned from that film and what the
Hmm.
concept of this film is.
That's the big thing for me is that whenever I see that the French Dispatch helped me to sort of formalize in for myself how for Wes Anderson's films, even if the final product isn't something that fully resonates with me or something that I enjoy as much as some of his other stuff, it is still the way he wanted it to be done.
Yes.
And I think that is also true with this. It just takes it to a much greater extreme than even the French Dispatch did.
I'm curious where he goes from here. I'm sure the studio's probably not too happy with the reviews it's getting from the common folk, but at the end of the day,
I
vote with
don't
your
know.
dollars than
Yeah,
your actual reviews.
like I wonder. Like I'm curious, right? Where is his name? Wes Anderson wow, filmography. Like what were the box offices of other things, right? French Dispatch, budget of 25, box of 46. Isle of Dogs doesn't have a budget listed, but a box of 64. Grand Budapest was quite conventionally successful. It's not too surprising. Moonrise Kingdom had a budget of 16. Damn, dude, that's actually impressive. For even 2012, that's crazy. Box of 68, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Budget of 40, box of 46. So, like, it's a limited release. It's the opening weekend. They had a budget of 25, and they're at a box of 16 right now for first week. And it's not even the close of the first weekend. We'll have to wait and see what it turns out as.
Yeah,
I think it's very reasonable that this will end up, like he didn't get panned into the dirt for Fantastic Mr. Fox, right? Even though it underperformed and it probably didn't make back the actual budget that it cost to advertise it, people appreciated it for what it was. And, you just have to work with different production companies that can appreciate that as well.
that's a good way of putting it.
So we'll see. I'm surprised a bit that the French Dispatch made as much as it did. It feels like he's gotten to a bit of a critical mass of fans where they'll go and see what he puts out regardless on the opening weekend.
He's a named
Of release.
director. That's
Yeah,
all you really need to
you
know.
you go to see a Wes Anderson movie, absolutely.
Yeah, no one goes to see Grand Budapest Hotel originally because it was Budapest Hotel and it was a masterpiece right off the gate. They went to go see it because it was a Wes Anderson film.
Yep, for sure.
So, that being said, where the fuck are you, Edgar Wright? Where the fuck are you, Guillermo? Well, actually, he did Pinocchio last year. That's fine with
That's
me.
true.
Yeah. Come on. he d- Wes Anderson did Asteroid City 2 years after French Dispatch, which probably means they were both being worked on at the same time.
Well, I
But
guess to be fair, Edgar Wright did Last Night in Soho, so
I know, but still,
that's recent-ish.
hurry up, both of you. I want more movies.
I agree. And I am still, the fact that Wes Anderson can put out a movie that is like conventionally good still, or not conventionally good, but is still a product worth existing, right? And not even maybe make even like top 3 movies of the year is says something for the state of where the film industry has kind of bounced back a little bit too right now, where we've seen a noticeable step up in quality over the last 12 months compared to the 12 months before that.
Well, I mean, it's because COVID. We're out
Mm-hmm.
of COVID productions almost.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think a big thing right now is I'm impressed Wes Anderson's developing still. Because,
Yeah,
how old is Wes Anderson?
he's younger than you'd think,
Okay.
but Not especially. Maybe he just looks young. He's 54.
Okay,
He
he's
looks
at
quite
the
young.
age where he is allowed to kind of like sit on his laurels.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because like put this up with like Aerosmith and what they were doing in their 50s. You know,
Yeah.
not many artists could do push the envelope still in their 50s, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to see like that going strong in film. I wish musicians would do it a little bit more. We all can't be David Bowie though.
Yeah. I am glad to see him not just sitting on his hands. He's
Yeah,
trying new things. He's doing new things. He's pushing his own craft.
of course.
That's always good.
Anything else for the show today, Carol?
Two things. Well, I guess just one thing. Um, there's been some minor updates in the Trump documents stuff,
Oh,
but
please.
it's very minor. I don't really want to go into it. Um, go watch the legal video. That'll be a better summary of everything that's going on, anyways. Importantly, though, some little bit of breaking news that happened while we were filming here. A U.S. what is this? Federal, I believe. A federal court has blocked the Florida anti-drag law
Wow.
on obvious First Amendment grounds.
Yeah.
It was argued that the law was written so broadly as to have a chilling effect on First Amendment rights to free speech as guaranteed by the Constitution. The judge agreed, finding the plaintiff was likely to succeed at trial on First Amendment grounds. So we'll see where it goes. I'm sure it'll get appealed up again, but good step. It's like the obvious step, right? These are obviously laws that violate the First Amendment.
Yeah.
So little victories, but we take them where we can.
We do like seeing the little victories.
Mm-hmm.
The First Amendment in general was a victory. Okay. Uh, anything else, good sir?
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, I'm the Mr. Ryan, and I've been living in a yellow submarine.
And I'm Kyril, and I've finished my home.
Goo goo gajoob.